the Palace of Speed. Early on in this race.
Here we are at Silverstone Circuit for round 4 of the Spec-5 World Tour. Now, this is right at the top of the bat, a slightly different HJBC production, one that we have done before, a live replay, if you want to call that. This is racing that happened last Thursday night for the Spec-5 World Tour, and myself, my co-commentator Devin Peters, and producer Michael Derby, we are seeing it for the first time with these replay files. So very excited to bring all the coverage and make sure we don't miss a minute of Spec-5 World Tour. This is the historic-ish Silverstone Circuit, a racetrack that's been through many changes. I think every 5 years they like to change something up. This is the version as it sort of existed 2002 until 2010, 2011-ish. So without the new pit lane, without the new bit through the infield, but with the old Abbey Bridge corners, and of course still the famous Maggots, Beckett's Chapel section of high-speed changes of direction. So we are not long to getting into qualifying, Devon, and then we have the full 45-minute race still early in this season for Spec-5 World Tour.
Yeah, and it ought to be a good show here out at Silverstone, you know. Not only are we going to be racing across some runways, it's basically the Sebring of Britain, but we're going to also see some good drafting, I have to think, on this layout.
Now, the long-time iRacers will know that replays occasionally do some funny things. One of them is that in lone qualifying, your replay only saves you, not what everyone else did in that session. Spectators can chop and change around and see everyone in qualifying. Drivers within the session can't, and it means that the replay from drivers does not include every single car. So we're going to take a look at some of the laps playing out in qualifying right now. Ronnie Coates, multiple time champion, even within the time that HJBC have been covering this championship. And this is that lap of Silverstone that starts at the old pit lane there. Turn 1 is then Copse Corner. And in we go with these changes of direction early on in the lap. A car that doesn't have a oodles and oodles of downforce. So it is all about precision. It's all about balancing the inputs, the brake and the throttle to have that car right in the zone where it doesn't want to slide out, but it does want to make these changes of direction and then carry speed off the exit.
Looked like a good line there through Maggots and Beckett's. And we'll see how he does. Chapel Corner here is always, Stowe is always a tricky one, where you're kind of off camber on the way in, turning in, and trying to get to that apex, but trying to get there nice and late. It looks like he's doing a pretty good job through there as well.
Yeah, it's subtly off camber right up against the apex, but that still is the shortest line. So there's a couple of lines through Stowe, but then you're on the brakes big time to try to come through this final part of Vale and Club. Club's a slightly different shape these days.
Yeah.
But it's all pretty much the same as far as carrying your speed then onto the next straight. And now rather than flicking right, you're into this chicane section here at Abbey. Down into second gear, carrying speed out, then to be flat out over that right-hand apex. This is one of the corners that I miss the most, to be honest. Bridge here, you carry speed and you're flat out. In slightly higher horsepower cars, it's one of those really, is it flat out, is it not challenges? And there's famously some 1990s telemetry of Michael Schumacher was the only person flat out through there in F1.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to have to correct your trivia knowledge. This is the 2003 layout because it's got the new pit lane there, Haynes. Come on.
What do you mean?
It's all good. They had the second entry added to the pit lane there, the early one. Either way, we're watching Coates come across the line here. Crosses the line the first time with a 2:08.5, which is a pretty solid lap. As he's the only one on the track, sorry, that was lap 3, my bad. As he's the only one on the track, by my sector times, they're all purple. But of course, we'll have to see how he ends up stacking up. We'll show you a couple different laps here. This is going to be lap number 4 for Coates. Comes up the hill again. And it was a pretty good field by the looks of things. About 20 cars as I glanced at the grid. 20 cars that showed up for the race.
Spec-5 qualifying, the drivers get 4 flying laps in the session, and it is very common to sort of see, okay, the pace build up to the 3rd, to the 4th. Tyres are definitely cold for these cars right at the start of the session, but this isn't the shortest lap. We saw it's just over 5 kilometers, which of course is available as a number of miles. And yeah, so you build up the tyre temperature pretty handily by the time you've completed the outlap and the first flying lap. Ronnie Coates still pushing on to improve on a 2:07.9.
Gets it going pretty well again as he comes up onto bridge. And continuing to chop time out of it. He's through every sector on this lap, purple relative himself, so going green at least in every single sector. Keeps it off those sausage curbs on the inside there. Slices it nicely out to the exit. And short run to the line here.
This version of Silverstone will let you get away with cutting some of those bollards at the final corner there. Nice to see Ronnie Coates not give in to the urge, and Barney knows how to wave a checkered flag. Ronnie Coates goes up there with a 2:07.8. We're switching over to take a look at some of the other qualifying right now. So we've seen Ronnie Coates' best laps there. And we'll see who will show us a little more of qualifying. What did we take away from that? I mean, Silverstone's lucky it's got a bunch of history because it's pretty flat, to be honest, in a lot of these places. But I'm still thinking, no downforce. It's the changes of direction, not just the sustained cornering, that really separate the best.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's really the challenge in this car all the time. I'd also say that my impression is that British pavers are much more skilled than American ones, judging by the relative flatness of the circuit, the just complete lack of gigantic bumps at every corner entry, exit, and apex, as compared to its American counterpart. So, I'm really just thinking we got to chalk this one up to the Brits and, compare the racing later on,
Fair enough. That's one way to look at it. I was going to say, maybe Britain has slightly milder winters, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure that the ground freezing over winter is quite what causes the bumps at Sebring.
Yeah.
Going to have a look at Ray Lombardi's qualifying. He's helpfully provided the replays as well. And then we get into the racing not long after that. So this is the third flying lap from Ray Lombardi. So far, of the two divisions in Spec-5 World Tour, we've only seen qualifying from pro drivers to the moment as well, from the pro class.
Yeah, we'll have to see what the open class ends up gridding like. Ray's first lap out was a 2:09.3, so a few tenths off. But I have to say, this feels very realistic compared to our usual approach, because, of course, Ray always goes out last in the qualifying session. That seems to be his trademark, so it does suit that we'd follow him around for the second qualifying laps we got here.
I think him and Orlando Harrell,
they do go back and forth. True.
Yeah, perhaps. Ray's race winner last time out as well at Road Atlanta. He'd be very annoyed if we didn't mention that, and he's probably very pleased if we did. So that was a very exciting race at Road Atlanta, where Ray came away with the win there. Now we're on board at the far end of the circuit. Lots of fans out there. The Ray fans have gone crazy, made their way over from the Netherlands, probably boarded a ferry or two.
Now, the most distressing thing I know about Ray Lombardi is that he is a big fan of the C4 Corvette, and I think we just need to let that one breathe a little bit while we watch him lap Silverstone here. Okay, good.
What's his spirit animal?
He's a turtle, but the snapping variety, so he pounces when you least expect it, and I think that's what we saw last week.
I think that's fair. He's going to use all of the pavement through the final sector. The track's on average very, very high speed. And then you get to just these last couple corners of the lap and it feels slightly fiddlier. And if you're up on your lap time, you just got to be precise through all these bits around here. And then once you've got good traction there out of Luffield, you're flat out through Woodcote. And he doesn't care about the bollards. Ronnie Coates, a lot of respect for the bollards. Ray Lombardi, the first lap that we're going to see here, no respect for the bollards. 208.7 there, looking to improve onto his final flying lap.
Doing a really good job of maximizing the entries is Ray. He's getting right up on that white line before he turns in on the way into Copse. Not quite as aggressive on the curbs through Maggots and Beckett's, though.
So I noticed the brake lights just come on in little tippy taps on your way through here. You're not trying to shed a lot of speed, but you are trying to have the car rotate, have the car bend to your will and change direction through there. So left in and then right and then left and then right and then left again on the exit. There's a lot of change of direction, a lot of transfer of weight in a car that is not super stiffly sprung and again has no downforce on it. To the end of the hanger straight and in towards Stowe, slightly off camber, means you can go too wide in racing conditions through there because the outside gets a little more grip than the outside normally would have, but still up against the curbing is the fastest way. Braking into Vale, the change of direction there into Club, and by this point you've just got the throttle pinned and you're trying to take the neatest line on the way out on your way to Abbey.
Yeah, and again, a pretty good line through Abbey by the looks of things. It's been quick sectors for Ray. He's gone purple, gone green, I guess, relative his times through the first two. Third sector was a little off his best, lost about a tenth through there. But he's coming down to the end of the lap, and we'll see those last two sector times pop in here. Car looking a little unsteady on the exit, or on the entry rather there, into Prairie.
This is coming towards the end of his very, very final lap. Overcast conditions, so the track shouldn't be too hot. Tyres should keep on giving. And Ray Lombardi, so he's looking to improve on a 208.4 at this stage?
7, I believe, and he's coming to the line where he will do a 208.49, which is his fastest lap, but still puts him about 5/10 off of Ronnie Coates. And
Graphic knows that that's put him 6th as well, which is good to see.
Yeah, so it gives you a good idea. Pretty tight up at the top of the field. From what I'm seeing, it looks like our qualifying order, as we start to switch over here for the race, looks like our qualifying order is Ronnie Coates taking the pole with that 207.9. We got Eugenio Pellicci with a 207.93. Michael Chase with a 208.1. Ree Coimbra, 208.2. Otis, 208.3. Ray with a 208.4 in 6th. Simon is going to end up with, that's Faux Weather with a 208.5. Tom Aiton running a 208.8. Jordy Fike running a 208.9. Zach Burke, a 209. Almost flat. Greg Mack running a 209.0 is our first
now, this
open
might
class
be a
driver.
sign of my naivety, but I'm hoping that the grid graphic works from the race server.
We're all praying for the same thing here there, buddy. Zeus Dalston is the second open class driver. He's gridded in 12th place. He's got a 209.1. Brian Spelski, a 209.3. Third place on the open grid, Matthew White, a 209.4. Closely followed by Jose Gonzalez, also running a 209.4. Charles Riccaro running a 210, and Orlando Harrell, a 210 as well. Camden Hibbett and Gillen both joined the server, but we didn't get qualifying times from either of them, so I don't know if they were a little bit late. We'll have to see how it pans out. And it looks like we've got maybe a grid.
It does look like a grid. So a red bar underneath the position is a pro class driver. It's all pros inside of the top 10. And then we have to look deeper to find Greg Mack as the best qualified open class driver. Zeus Dalston with the Senna helmet on there. And then you read them out. We've got Jose Gonzalez, Charles Vaccaro, Orlando Harrell, and Andrew Gilliland. Is it a surprise to see him that far back in qualifying? Same for Camden Hibbett. I guess maybe those two guys didn't.
Yeah, those are our two that didn't put a qualifying time in, and we'll see if they take the grid. Was impossible to say from the replay, but there you go. And we're gonna get underway here. Cars pulling away from the pace car. Pace car pulling away from the race cars. How about that? And already the drivers are weaving. A little overcast at this section of the session. Winds pushing about 16 miles an hour from the northeast. And it looks like they'll be pretty consistent around 66 degrees Fahrenheit, which is some amount of degrees Celsius.
Thank you. Yeah, 20-ish, I'm going to imagine.
He's got the mile per hour to kilometer an hour conversion down, but the temperature's still a little random, eh?
Oh, the temperature makes no sense to me, but I can definitely look at the info box and see that the pit lane speed limit is 72 kilometers an hour. So that's 45 miles an hour on pit road, which the drivers are going to need in this 45-minute race.
Yeah, looks like we can expect a pretty wide range of fuel opportunities here. Guys should be able to hit the lane after about, say, 5-6 laps. And if they're saving, they might be able to go as long as 14 or 15. we've certainly seen so far this season that the preferred strategy seems to be keeping all the original tires on the car for the whole race. The warm-up seems to take a little bit too long so far. And we've also noticed that the fuel strategy has been really critical. So something Coates is kind of a master of is hanging back and sort of managing that fuel consumption in the early phase of the race. And so we'll see if that's the sort of strategy that pays off today, or if maybe there's a bit more of a blitzkrieg approach.
This RAF base was built specifically to combat that sort of thing. I do believe. I'm no proper historian, but we definitely did see last time out at Road Atlanta, some drivers thought about taking left side tires for a predominantly clockwise circuit, and for many of them it didn't work out. Like, say, Alex Harrison and a few others also struggled with the cold tires, the mismatch, the curbs. It was very, very difficult to drive and didn't provide the benefit they were expecting it would. So it was a net loss, and I suspect similar would be here, except for less bashing over the curbs through the S's. But it's also similarly cold conditions, very similar ambient and track temps to a week ago.
Really surprised by just how much weaving Ronnie's doing. Like little weaves, but very consistently all the way on this pace lap. Maybe he's got something there. We'll see how it works on these opening laps.
It seems to almost all be red cars up front for the start here. And we are not far away from starting. The pace car's gotten a little cleverer than it used to be. It knows to zip away to pit lane when the it knows to slow down for massively hairpin corners. It also knows how to rally cross. We're a moment away. Flag getting underway. Ronnie Coates leads us towards Cops down the old pit straight that we're using here at Silverstone. Simon Foweather's going to move to the inside there, give us a little bit of three wide. Cold tyres for all on the way into super fast Cops corner. His nose will, of course, get chopped off a little bit, and around the outside is a good way to catch speed on an opening lap.
I was worried that we were going to get a little bit of that Max Verstappen action there with Foweather poking his nose up the inside, but he ducked out just in time and managed to avoid any collisions, and it's been clean so far. Oh, and I say that, Matthew White goes off the track. We'll see him in the background of the shot here. Orange car just pulling off and having to rejoin.
It's a great start from Polici as he leads them down the hanger straight. Ronnie Coates has gone back one spot. Rui Coimbra is up two, and there is a big movement here between Simon Foweather, Ray Lombardi. Looks like Otis Adams tucks back in line, then he looks maybe to the inside. There's definitely some aggression on cold tyres here, and they're not all completely up to pace just yet. I said around the outside can work at Stowe there, and it's worked for a couple of drivers early on here as well, but great lead at the moment from Polici. How about this battle here? Tom Ayton looks like Zach Burks down the inside of Geordie Fike. And they're still going to be side by side coming off of Club, my favourite type of soda and sandwich.
Interesting to see Burke tapping the brakes as he comes down the straight there. Keeps the foot to the floor, but slows it up a little bit so he can drop back in line. I guess he only wants to go single file through there. And it's pretty well single file through the field at this point. We'll see some overtakes happening, I'm sure, including Charles Vaccaro looking up the inside of Orlando Harold deep in the pack. That sorts itself out. Returning, though. See how battles a little further up, maybe.
Yeah, Zeus Dalston leads open class at the moment from Greg Mack and Jose Gonzalez. Good to see Jose back. I think we missed him for a couple of rounds at the start of this season. And there is a musician currently touring Australia also called Jose Gonzalez. And I was like, is that why he hasn't been racing Spec-5? But they are not the same person. I think Jose is probably the most common first name for people with a very common surname, Gonzalez. He's doing good racing right now inside of the top three for the open class at the moment. Foweather's gotten in super deep into Cop's corner. I like that they've kept just a little bit of grass on the outside there before you get to the paved runoff. It costs him a little bit, but he is able to keep his car off the wall. And now Ray Lombardi to the inside of the first bit of Beckett's. And there's a tiny bit of contact. Whoa! Have a look at the bumps out in the grass. Simon Foyweather spun off after that excursion, dirt on his tyres.
And Ray's having a bad time too. Ray's spinning it as well. That's the smoke in the foreground we're seeing. Ray's gotten it off the track. And I think you're right. I think some dirt on the tires and the two of them just couldn't hold it.
You're super committed through that part of the track, and I think that they had a little bit of contact. I don't think if Ray picked up any damage, but certainly a bit of contact between them.
And our group has split. We've now got what looks like a pack of about 5 cars pulling away, led by Ronnie Coates. The second pack, led by Zach Burke, goes all the way back to 15th place, and they're battling. I got Zeus Dalston looking up the inside of Tom Aton. Gets his nose chopped just a little bit there, so they've split again. But Dalston looking to make up some ground while they're getting as good. Checking back in at the front, that's Ronnie. No, sorry, that's Ronnie leading again. He's managed to take the spot back from Palici this time, and Rui Coimber's actually looking a little bit racy with the Eugenio ahead. He was right up on the bumper as they headed under the bridge. And it is all red and black, so speed secrets for the race: be red and black in the top 5.
Yeah, the good old mandated FIA LMP1 colours of red, white and black. Bit of a breakaway for them here amongst that battling that we saw for 5th and 6th that cost positions to Ray Lombardi and Simon Foyweather. It opened up this gap to the next group, currently led by Zach Burke. It's got Geordie Fike, Tom Aton, Zeus Dalston, Brian Chapelski. Zeus Dalston's doing well for himself then in that little pack as the open class leader with a pro class car behind. So on his way to score good points, but also a little insulated at the moment from some of his other open class competitors. Has he got a new livery?
I was just thinking the same thing.
I hesitate to look too closely just in case.
That would be a valid hesitation, I would say. It's almost a lion's den, I would say. Either way, Zeus is driving away with it in the open class right now, putting a little bit of time between himself and Shabelski behind, who's pro driver. And keeping those pro cars behind you is really key to having a good points finish here in the open class. You know, you're competing for the finishing position, not relative your class, but relative all the cars on track. And so being in the open class, you're going to try and put as many of those pro class drivers behind. And we see Zeus catching up to Tom Aton. He was close around this part of the track last time. We'll see if he's able to close it up again.
The average lap around here is pretty quick. So it's just over 2 minutes for these cars around a 5 kilometer lap. 2 minutes is a good lap time for a GT3 around Sebring, which is a similar length, but apparently just a little bit slower. So you are going to spend a lot of time at full throttle. The slipstream is going to be really powerful, and therefore also a little bit of fuel saving is going to be powerful.
Yeah, and we're seeing the effect of that slipstream as the cars are kind of breaking up into little packs. It's hard to close the gap up to the team or up to the group ahead. Top 5 still running in order. This time past the stripe, it's Ronnie Coates, Eugenio Palici, Roy Coimbra, Michael Chase, and Otis Adams in 5th. And all 5 of these guys are guys that definitely have the pace to walk away with a win today.
Yeah, leading up front at this stage of the race, not necessarily the big benefit you might think it is. So Palici has dropped back into 2nd. Rui Coimbra is very close to him through here again. You can tell who's a left foot braker, I think, by exactly how much brake lights come on through that sequence there. Who's like dancing on both of the pedals, trying to balance the car through that sequence of corners. You can see your leading pack. You can see your tailing pack as we are down the Hangar Straight.
For the Lombardi and Foyweather fans in the field, they're back about 15 seconds off the main pack, trailing along behind Matthew White in that orange car. The two of them both managed to continue on, though, without a stop.
Foyweather's been catching Lombardi there. and they're both catching Matt White, potentially also catching Orlando Herrell and Jose Gonzalez, who are just a couple of seconds up the road from them at the moment now. So, yeah, they can still see the field, even if the pack was very tightly spaced when they initially lost that time off circuit.
Yeah, and Fairweather, he's been pushing hard. He was actually down about a second and a half, 2 seconds on Ray after the whole thing sort of unfolded, but has managed to close that gap down. Despite that, I think they're going to need a little bit of help if they're going to get their way back up into the top 5. Either that or a really good pit stop.
Fairweather's got his wipers on automatic, but he'll need to bind a button for it in this car eventually. Not one of the first cars on the iRacing service to get rain tyres. If you want to race a car like this in the rain on iRacing right now, you've got to do the GR86.
Zach Burke and Jordy Fike are getting a little spicy as they go through cops this time. Burke just holding off Fike on the exit. We'll see if the two of them get any closer as we get into one of the most exciting parts of the track here. Lots of curb on the right-hander.
Is he off the track there?
Who's that?
I think Tom Athon just behind
big
him.
wreck, yeah. Tom Athon. And that was... I'll replay it, but it looks to me like Athon gets onto the curb, and then he and that was Zeus Dalston. He and Zeus Dalston kind of end up colliding with each other and collecting one another. I think Zeus was surprised to find Tom was still there because Tom was lifting, and then Zeus turned in, and end result is his 2 cars facing the wrong way. Luckily, not a ton of damage. Back at the front, they're heading into Beckett's. Nope, they're heading into Club. That makes a lot more sense. And they're coming on down Abbey. Nope, I don't know the names of the straights. I'm lost.
Abbey. So
yeah.
Abbey is the name of this left-right chicane on this layout, but in the modern version, it's the name of the right-hander at the same place.
That's what was
at the end of what is now the Hamilton Straight.
Hamilton. Getting named. Things named after him.
I had a good discussion about this, though, but because someone I know is very adamantly against calling Curva Alboreto at Monza anything other than the Parabolica. They're like, no, Parabolica had its own name. It was classic. You've taken that away to give it to Michele Alboreto, potentially the last Italian to win a race with Ferrari, or something like that. Whereas here, it's like, New Pit Straight is now the Hamilton Straight. It's like, fair enough. You haven't gone and renamed Chapel Curve Hamilton Curve and pissed off, 30 decades. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
purists.
that many.
a lot of purists.
So the real question is, where do you fall on bus stop versus Le Mans chicane?
No, I don't like that. Again, that's another one of those cases where it's like the Parabolica should have been called Alboreto Parabolica, and the Le Mans chicane should have been the Le Mans bus stop.
I think whatever you call it, Ronnie Coates will be pretty quick through it as he continues to lead this race, holding off Eugenio Pellicci, who might very well be sitting back there doing a little bit of fuel saving. Rui Coimbra, Michael Chase behind, and Otis Adams still running in 5th. Hasn't been a lot of movement in the top 5. These drivers are seeming pretty content to let Coates do the leading while they do the following.
Yeah, so Pellicci did lead for a little bit, but now it all falls back on Ronnie Coates again. And I get this helpful little reminder every time he goes off track.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the replay from him. Top 5, 1.5 seconds. Then the next group, it's been splintered a couple times. Initially, it was splintered from these leaders when Simon Fairweather and Ray Lombardi went off. Now there's been a little bit of a splintering after these guys based on what happened to Tom Athon and Zeus Dalston. So Zach Burke and Jordy Fike are all in their lonesome. Then the next group is Brian Chabelski with new open class leader Greg Mack.
Mm-hmm. and he's holding off Jose Gonzalez and Orlando Harrell, who are a few seconds behind. Must be said, Simon Foweather and Ray Lombardi managed to find their way past Zeus Dalston. They were coming through. That would have been Luffield last time when the two of them got right up on his bumper, and there was a little bit of beating and banging, nothing too offensive, but they had to make their presence felt in order to make their way past Dalston. And we'll see, he's kind of close again. Ray, in that exchange, Ray got pushed a little bit off the line, and Simon was able to take advantage, swooping underneath the both of them to take the spot away. So that's how he's ended up ahead. And down on the front straight, we're seeing Jose Gonzalez and Orlando Harrell looking really close into the pit lane. That was really racy for a second there before Orlando dropped out, before they turned into cops.
I'd like to lodge a complaint. An abbey and a priory are the same thing. Well, not quite, but close enough that, like...
Precision of language, David Haynes.
Yeah. When I design a racetrack, I'm not going to call one corner monastery and the other one... Yeah, and chapel too. Hang on.
Hey, David Haynes, when I design a racetrack, they're all going to be turns to me.
No, that's true. That's true. I respect you're true to yourself. Or should I say true to yourself?
True, yeah. Either way, we're watching the leaders split.
Club is definitely a different thing
here
than a chapel.
That's what you think, sir. But yeah, it's
how much
interesting.
communion wine are they giving you, Devin?
Anyways, Ronnie Coates is trying really hard to break the draft from Eugenio Pollicci down some of these straightaways. And I got to think, if you're the guy up front and you can't get behind, then you probably want to try and break the draft. And it's a hard little thing to do around here. But if I was going to do it anywhere, I'd do it through this sector of the track. And that seems to be what Coates is trying to do. Runs it a little wide on the exit there. No off track. But seeing kind of the different approaches that you can take through this section of the track. That really tight entrance on left field, or do you want to get back and get a little wider on the double right?
Lap times do seem to be ramping up a little bit. It's not this lap just completed, but the one before. Ronnie Coates had his personal best, and the others in the train also. Someone set the fastest lap amongst this group, and I want to suspect it was Rui Coimbra. So no one's really backing it off just yet.
Yeah, 2:07.688 last time by for Rui Coimbra is good for a fast lap. Also, noticing a couple cars hit the pit lane. I think that was we got Zeus Dalston in the box, and I think Tom Athon. No, that was Simon Foweather. Hit the lane and then got off the track. Tom Athon coming in as well. We may have missed a little bit of a drama back in the pit lane. I'll go investigate. Tom Athon, this might very well have been a scheduled stop. Oh yeah, there was a big wreck. It looks like Simon Foweather and that was Zeus Dalston got together, and the two of them ended up having a pretty big collision. Dalston towed it, and Foweather did too, and now Foweather's out of the race.
Tom Athon's out of the pits. 18 seconds for him, and we were watching it, so we know that car didn't go up on the jacks. Sensible decision, I think.
Yeah, and checking back in with the leader. Lead pack is going under the bridge now.
That's where one of our cameras is out there. Get a good angle there. And then a couple of different lines through here. I think I'm seeing Pollicci slide the tail a little more. Sometimes it's just hug the apex. Sometimes it's make a V shape out of it. Been listening to too many podcasts about the early 2000s in F1 and how they had a lot of front to back grip on the grooved slicks, but not a lot of lateral grip on the grooved slicks, and how that affected the kind of lines you would take and do some just weird stuff on those tires because they had a lot of grip front to back and not side to side, which is different actually to normal tires where you've got a lot of lateral grip.
It's interesting. I considered that. Would have made going through this set of corners pretty challenging, but these guys are making easy work of it on these road tires. A little bit of slicing and dicing here. It looks like Michael Chase is getting a little feisty with Roy Coimbra, and also starting to see a little bit of a weave from Polici and Coates up the front. Another off track for Coates, our race leader. Luckily, I think he's pretty low on the count, all things considered. Brian Schabelsky taking what looked to be a scheduled stop. Sat for about 21 seconds, taking on some fuel. That makes him only the second driver to take one of those. And he's running all alone back here in 14th place at this point.
Yeah, because he was just in front of Greg Mack, the open class leader, and now he's pitted and left Greg Mack all alone, 3 seconds ahead of Jose Gonzalez and Orlando Herald at a second and third in that class at the moment.
Lurking in the background of that shot is Ray Lombardi in that yellow and purple car. He's taken that thing from dang near last place at one point early in the race after that incident, all the way back up to 11th now, and he'll be trying to chase down these next 3 open class drivers to minimize the damage done to the season after that one. And they're too wide on the front straight. That's Roy Coimbra on the outside of Michael Chase, and Michael dips back across the nose and is going through cops.
Yeah, opens up a little bit of a gap. Look at this. Ronnie Coates has got 9/10 all of a sudden as he leads them into what you might call the S's, Maggots, Beckett's Chapel. Now almost pulling out a whole second over Eugenio Polici.
Oh.
Someone's blowing their engine.
Michael Chase misses a shift, blows the motor. Oh, and what a heartbreaker. Nothing left to do but tow.
That thing is dead stick. I heard it. I'm sure we heard it too. It made a hell of a racket, and he must have just pulled for a downshift too early in a place where you shouldn't.
If you're heel towing, you can overshift in these things and get it too low. And I'm guessing he just got a double pull on the sequential box while heel towing. I've done it before. That's why they keep me up here these days.
So Michael Chase is out of it. That Mazda motor is goners. And it's just an issue with the shifting as he came into the very fast part of the track there. He managed to pull out of the way without being collected, but now suddenly Eugenio Polici's 9/10 behind the lead. There's more than a second from Eugenio Polici to Rui Coimbra, and he's not a teammate, Otis Adams.
That's a real bummer though for those guys. Had 4 cars on the top, and now it's split into 2x2. And they're nose to tail up at the front. That's Rui Coimbra, Otis Adams still. And Otis runs a little bit wide, and that's not the run you want if you're going to give a push to your teammate.
Still a few people not giving the respect necessary to those bollards at the final corner that you can drive straight through. They're visually there, but they're not physically there, just like me at family gatherings.
Hey.
Yeah, but so it just don't drive through them. Greg Mack from the Open Class League, he's going to pit. He's driving it into pit lane. So no dramas that I spot there for Greg Mack, doing 45 miles an hour, looking for where his crew are down near the pit exit end of the pit lane.
Yeah, he'll be our first he'll be our first scheduled open class driver to hit the pit lane. So we'll see how that pans out for him. Up ahead of him, you're also seeing Michael Chase, I think, frantically putting a new motor into that car.
And we can see Ronnie Coates, lollipop guy, all session long.
Mm-hmm. He is prepared for a pit stop, that one.
We're
Greg
going to get to see him
by.
proper spring into action then at some point. Better not miss that. Yeah, Greg Mack's back out. Lando Harrell has dropped back from Jose Gonzalez by a couple of seconds as Ray Lombardi is cutting his way back up through the field. So that might have done it as Ray put the pass on Orlando. That it dropped Orlando Harrell away from Jose Gonzalez, who was doing a good job of following.
Yeah, and Jose is driving for all he's worth right now, trying to hold off Ray. Looks like by the lap times they're close on average, but I think Ray's got about 0.3, quarter to a half second on Jose, so we'll expect some overlap here in a lap or two.
Yeah, Ray's definitely showing that he maybe should have been part of the leading pack. And he has been on previous occasions this season. Just trying to work his way back up towards salvaging some points out of this race. No pit stop for your leaders. Coates, Pellicci, Coimbra, Adams, they all stay out. And it's just the four of them now. Although Michael Chase has gotten back out on track.
You know, if I'm Ronnie in this situation, I'm a little surprised he didn't pit this time by. You don't often get the 2-second gap, you know, in this kind of race. And so when it gets given to you on a few of the guys, I'd be tempted to take to the pit lane, because it's not like you're getting a draft when you're running first. So I don't know, maybe that's an opportunity missed for him. We'll see how it pans out.
Matthew White pits from the open class, not to be confused with Channel 10's Matt White, who commentated supercars between 2005 and 2012.
I'll choose to believe you on that stat.
he was the lead commentator for the he's in the fence, they're both in the fence, they're all in the fence moment.
Oh yes, I have seen that clip.
So he's famous in that way. I saw that get rolled out a bunch more times as rain came to iRacing, and it's just a classic one of those. Everyone's on slick tires. It instantly starts bucketing down rain. Exactly how treacherous those conditions can become oh so quickly. This is your leading four through the Abbey chicane. Ronnie Coates isn't shy of a little bit of curbing at the moment at the apex, and then down the hill here, no worries being flat out through bridge. It's all about keeping the car to the right hand side to then open up the entry through the little left there, and then the rest of your run through here, where again he's up against the curb but he's not monstering all over it, and Policci's gotten just a little bit closer. He opens it up a little bit for that late apex out of Luffield. Pit entry's on the right, and that's where Ronnie Coates is going, but Eugenio Pellicci is not. What about Coimbra and Adams? They're going to stay out as well. So I think he's taking a little bit of Devin Peters' advice. Go that 1 or 2 laps earlier, see if you can't just, undercut them. So Lollipop Man, time to do your job.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. And it bears saying that the last 3 laps, Pellicci and Coimbra have been really pushing. We saw fastest laps of the race last time by for Roy Coimbra, and fastest laps for all 3 of those other guys in the top 4 right in the last 2 laps. Also, angled here from Ronnie Coates, really aggressively.
So he can get around just a little bit through the safety car. Now he's out of the pit lane. They've got the Silverstone incident response vehicle there. That's the best scanned track vehicle I've ever damn seen. It's like a second generation Fiat Ducato. Very, very UK.
It is. I am a little bit surprised.
Considering the off-track vehicles in some of these iRacing scans are pretty rubbish. Like Jerez, the pit lane is full of like American haulers, and it just doesn't look Spain. You need a Mercedes-Benz Actros in there. You need a Volvo FH16. You probably need a Scania K series.
For anyone passionate about Euro Truck Simulator like David Haynes is, you can see him on his YouTube channel streaming that into the wee hours of the night. Another battle I want to shout out on track. We've got Zach Burke and Jordy Fike fighting over 4th and 5th right now. They've just split up a little bit as they're coming out of that looks to be going into Abbey. But Fike's kind of been all over the back of the Burke, and the two of them have been racing pretty closely here for the last few laps, putting some pressure. So it might be 2x2 out at the front, but it's 2x2 for 5th and 6th, or 4th and 5th on the road right now.
Perhaps the track map doesn't work, but at least it shows the correct layout of track map for this configuration of Silverstone. I was about to say, we're expecting more on the pit lane, and we're going to get him. Eugenio Pollicci in, but Coimbra and Otis Adams staying out. A few of the other drivers who haven't had any draft might come in as well as we look deeper down the field. But there goes Pollicci. Zach Burke's in.
Yeah, Burke's split, and so now that battle between Burke and Fike is split up. And we're seeing Ray Lombardi hit the lane full speed ahead as well. He and Harrell had been drafting a little bit, and that's all done. Looks like as well. That's Coates coming by. So Coates with the pit stop. We'll see how this lines up. And Pollicci's pulling away. And Pollicci was able to do a few seconds left.
He was, and he did. There comes Ronnie Coates at speed through Copse. And you're barreling down, but you're behind.
Can he carry this momentum? I don't think there's going to be quite enough.
So Ray Lombardi's also made a stop, and he's clearing out of the pit lane. But this is basically what we expect to be our lead battle, unless Coimbra and Adams pull something very surprising out of their pit stops. It's been a good strategy there from Pollicci. Had a quick enough in-lap, out-lap, and has just managed to save a little bit by going one lap longer, but then immediately Ronnie Coates goes down the inside at Stowe.
And dives it up there really confidently. Maybe there's no tires, so maybe there's just a little bit of warmth left over that Coates has that Pollicci doesn't at this point. Either way, Coates making that look pretty easy.
These are the two that are now scored first and second out front. Haven't stopped yet. Not a teammates of Coimbra and Adams. So pit entry. Could be calling their name on the right-hand side on the exit of this corner.
Coimbra did the pointy apex thing and the late pit entry thing. I'll take an inspiration from that line that the Porsche runs to get in there. Looked real quick getting in too. That's really smooth. Here's hoping there's no penalty on that.
Yeah, there's a lot of... Because you shortcut the inside of Luffield, so you run a long way from the off-ramp point before you quite have to pull up at the stop sign or give way. Geordie fights in as well, leaving us with just Otis Adams, Orlando Harrell, Charles Vaccaro, who haven't stopped yet.
Yeah, Vaccaro's still coming around this time. He's got... that's Zach Burke just ahead of him, so we'll see if he decides to make that this time.
Track map does want to work. Here we go. The 31 of Ronnie Coates is only just working his way through Copse Corner right now, but he is at way more speed. But he will be behind. So are we starting to see maybe Coates burnt a little bit too much fuel in the opening stint?
Hard to say, but he's definitely ready to make the overtake if an opportunity presents itself.
He's sweeping back through Chapel to give himself an uninhibited exit off of the corner within one car length, within the slipstream now, moving around a little bit. No real defense offered from Rui Coimbra, and Ronnie Coates decides he's going to go round the outside. Can happen at Stowe. Like I said, I talk about this camber, it's a very subtle effect, but it does let you find a little more grip out wide of the apex than you otherwise would expect, and Ronnie Coates is going to use that to go around the outside of Stowe in front of Rui Coimbra and Eugenio Pollicci. Now we just got to see what Otis Adams can do.
Yeah, Ronnie Coates has just been dispatching him left and right as soon as this happens. It's been impressive stuff from him.
He leads this group towards the Abbey chicane. It's really just a left-hand corner, to be honest, because once you're here, you're flat out through the tiny little right-hander that doesn't affect you much at all.
Otis hits the pits, and that's the siren in the background as these guys are going under the bridge. We'll see if he's able to make this work. And trust us, there's a MX-5 behind that wall.
It's a little small.
Ooh, and they're really close. Ronnie Coates is just holding off some pressure from Rory Coimbra. And I wonder if the overtaking is taking any sort of toll, either on the lap time or on the tires.
So the track map's super informative right now. The 22 of Otis Adams is still in his pit box. The 31 of Ronnie Coates at speed on the pit straight. Here goes Adams, but here comes Ronnie Coates with Rui Coimbra, with Eugenio Pollicci. And around the outside of Cop's corner, it's time Ronnie Coates might have him. This time he might not have to slot in behind on the way down to Maggott's corner, and he will in fact go ahead. So too will Rui Coimbra just sneaking through. Eugenio Pollicci ends up fourth.
Yeah, uncomfortable for Pollicci as he's going to have to slot in fourth place. And a slightly shorter stop for Otis, but it's not enough to overcome the advantage of draft and a bit of momentum there for Coates, who makes quick work of him. And Coates has really been showing some pace through qualifying and now in the race. The Team Nada team might have to work together to take him down.
So our graphics package is showing the correct positions in the ticker across the top. What it doesn't seem to want to show you is the time remaining in the race, which is 11 minutes at the moment.
Ooh, Tom Athon's just had a moment deep in the field. He's had to go wide and run through the grass on the exit of Beckett's there. And he'll give up a spot to Orlando Harrell, who comes by on the outside.
I think Jose Gonzalez also got him as well. So for those open class drivers trying to have a bit of a field day in the thinner grid at Silverstone, they are going to get ahead of Tom Athon. Harrell had a long stop, that feels uncharacteristic for Orlando Harrell, to be honest, but exactly. He's gone and done there. So the open class at the moment runs Greg Mack, Jose Gonzalez, Orlando Harrell, with no pro class cars in between.
Jordy Fike is getting it all sorts of wrong as they head towards the bridge. Zach Burke's going to have the momentum. But again, we see Zach Burke tapping on the brakes on the straightaway. It doesn't seem like he wants to go ahead of Jordy Fike at this point in the race. I thought for sure that we were going to see a position change there because Jordy just got it all sorts of wrong as they were going. That would be through Abbey there.
There's a bump draft for the lead. Rui Coimbra is in behind Ronnie Coates, but he's not going to try to challenge him into Cop's corner. It's going to let Otis Adams get a little bit closer. Eugenio Policci's got to have a good lap or so here if he's going to stay in touch as well. He's starting to drift off the back of this group, but there's nothing in it for the lead right now. This is another one of those places where you just little tap on the brake, little change of direction. You're using the brake almost just to put a bit of weight onto the nose at each time you change the steering wheel from one way to the other.
Yeah, and these three are really showing some pace, and it actually looks like they're starting to drop Eugenio Pollicci a little bit. I'm kind of surprised to see that. The last time by, Pollicci was definitely the slowest of the pack, nearly a second off.
With how early and how quickly Eugenio Pollicci let Ronnie Coates through, I wonder if Pollicci actually burnt a bit too much fuel in the first segment and he's needing to save a little bit now. That's on board with him. Mm-hmm. He's been hitting the gym, obviously. Cuts a very svelte figure.
And just that really disciplined hand positioning, you like to see it.
Yeah. 9 and 3 all the time, unless you pull the wheel too far.
Coimbra cuts the inside of the corner there at Abbey. I think he's gotten away with that one. And the cars are really starting to slide through the fast stuff right now. Just that little bit of slip angle all the time. Checking up a little bit here. And a big slide on the exit there from Coimbra.
8 minutes left, 4 more laps, because they're doing lap times just a little bit over 2 minutes, so it's pretty easy to crunch the numbers on that one. 4 more laps, and your top 4 are covered by underneath a second. Then it's Jordy Fike and Zach Burke. Ray Lombardi, bit of a battle perhaps forming Brian Chbelsky, Greg Mack and Jose Gonzalez. Maybe Zach Burke's not going to be quite as close to Jordy Fike as he once was. So that's the open class lead there, with Gonzalez closing in on Greg Mack, perhaps being held up by Jabalski? Hard to tell, to be honest.
Yeah, we'll have to see. We caught the end of it earlier. I just wanted to say Zach Burke was really sliding through the last corner. That's why he has a bit of a gap. Either way, Greg Mack is now sucking down that draft of Shabalski ahead, and appreciating having a pro class car ahead. I got to think in this battle.
Side by side to the lead. Rui Coimbra is down the inside of Ronnie Coates towards Stowe Corner at the end of the hangar straight. And they're going to remain side by side all the way through the corner. Ronnie Coates using that little bit of extra speed around the outside at Stowe to get the inside into Vale. And your top four have almost never been closer than this.
It's that good team driving. I think the Not a Team guys see their opportunity with Polici hanging off the back a little bit to push and maybe try and get by while, there's less risk of a problem behind.
Bit of Jaws music. Rui Coimbra is going to go back for it again down the inside at Abbey. Not the conventional overtaking place. Oh, that's a massive cut from Ronnie Coates. And you know what? It was an off track too.
I'm worried for him because that off track often comes with a slowdown. We'll see if he did enough.
I think he's good. I think he's good, but he's definitely dropped behind. Just managed to stay ahead of Otis Adams, but behind Rui Coimbra for the moment, and brings Eugenio Polici back into this. And if he had any dramas about his fuel, this is helping him stay in contact, stay in touch. 3 laps to go.
I just checked back in on Zach Burke, and again, he had a little bit of pace on Jordy Fike, and again, he decided not to go for the move. So I'm thinking that Zach Burke is just trying to size him up, and we'll see how this pans out on the final lap.
That thing is leaning on the left rear tyre through the long corners here as well, and you do have long, high-speed corners that can put a lot of energy into a tyre, really wear it out, or at least just overheat it, even in track conditions like these where it's the sun's not out, as it's not most days of the year in the UK. And, Brisbane is the Australian capital that gets the most sunny days per year. More than Sydney, more than Melbourne.
I believe you. Can you send a few my way?
You'll have to wait till summer before I can loan you any. So that's
okay.
where the sun goes when it's winter in this hemisphere. It just goes visits you.
I got it.
It's been a timeshare kind of situation.
They've managed to get Coates ahead, or Coates behind him now, but I don't think he's liking it very much. And he's sticking to the
line
inside.
at a club here. You don't normally run out that wide. There's something going on here. Coimbra just 2 tenths ahead of Ronnie Coates. Otis Adams dropping back a tiny bit as well, and Eugenio Polici's now all over him. I think Coates can sense Coimbra's needing to save just a tiny bit of fuel. I think both of the Not a Team guys are needing to save a little bit more than they expected. We're side by side again. The inside of Bridge for Ronnie Coates. Tap of the brakes from Coimbra. Coates goes ahead. And then there's also nothing to separate your top 3 in open class. This is going to be a very exciting final 2 laps.
Yeah, the open class battle is looking busy. Brian Shabalski is leading. He's in the pro class. Greg Mack is the first open driver in the green car. And then the 2 cars behind, Jose Gonzalez and Orlando Harrell, both looking like they might be on for a win here. Certainly looking like they got a chance at a podium. And they're all lining up here as we get down to the end. Back with the lead pack. Looking busy.
Cork in the bottle at the moment, isn't he? He couldn't fight with Ronnie Coates. He had to let Ronnie Coates go. Now there's 7 tenths. And you got 2nd, 3rd, 4th covered by absolutely nothing here, with Polici up into 3rd ahead of Otis Adams. Ronnie Coates is almost starting to have a chance of running away with this.
Yeah, they got a little bit of help from Eugenio Polici making a move on Otis, and they're continuing on. Battling the whole way.
Oh, you get so much telemetry on that dash from Ronnie Coates, more than usual.
Oh, the open class. That was Jose Gonzalez. That was, oh my God, 4-wheel sliding and losing a spot here now to Orlando Harrell, who's up to 2nd place. I thought Jose Gonzalez was going in the inside wall.
Gonzalez drops back. Orlando Herald goes up into second in class. Greg Mack is still leading it and only just ahead here behind Shapelski.
Zach Burke is now making a move on the inside of Jordy Fike. He got up the inside as they were headed into Stowe, and he's going to try and hold it as they're heading into Club Corner here on the outside. Nicely executed defense from Jordy Fike, but I don't think he's going to have anywhere to go with that momentum, and sure enough, he doesn't. Zach Burke holds the inside line and holds the spot.
3 thrilling battles throughout the field right now as they're about to start the final lap of Spec-5 World Tour Season 15, Round 4 from Silverstone Circuit. Eugenio Polici's dropped back, so now it's just Ronnie Coates, Coimbra, Otis Adams as your leading group at the moment, about to take the white flag. And so that's out of Luffield, flat out through Woodcote. Mind the bollards, please. And Barney should have the white flag in hand. Where's he at? Does he? I assume he does. It says 90 seconds left. I think I can see him waving the white flag in the background there. Yes, and even the graphics package must conclude that even though it doesn't know how much time is left, it must be the final lap if the white flag is being waved. Ronnie Coates leads by 3/10 over Rui Coimbra.
Yeah, open class battle still pretty tight. Greg Mack is holding off Orlando Herald, but it's no easy feat at this point in the race. We'll stay with the lead though until they cross the line.
What can the slipstream down the Hanger Straight do for Rui Coimbra as he comes off of Chapel Corner, just 3/10 behind, now just 2/10 behind, and closing on Ronnie Coates, who's driver's right-hand side, looking to defend the inside, then eventually offering it up, and that's where Rui Coimbra goes, down the inside. Ronnie Coates, can he hold just enough position around the outside of Stowe? I think he can. There's so much grip in Stowe around the outside. You would not believe it because of the way the camber goes. Lets him get the inside into the tough braking zone at Vale and cover this off. This is your top 3 on the final lap.
It's drama. It's drama in the open class. Orlando Herald gets a little bit wrong through Maggots and Beckett's. Jose Gonzalez has the spot. They're too wide coming down the straight there, Hanger Straight.
So Greg Mack still leading open class now from Gonzalez and Herald. This is outright through the Abbey chicane. Only a couple corners left on the lap, and Ronnie Coates still holds on. Not many places you can confidently pass to close out the lap after that Vale braking zone. It's a little single file. There's not many big braking zones left on the lap, and Coates is ahead of the teammates who've hurried and hassled him all race long. There was Coimbra's look at a dive to throw the nose down. It doesn't work now. He's alongside Otis Adams, but Ronnie Coates has just got one last corner to navigate. Coimbra holds on to second for the moment. Coates, under so much pressure, had to go side by side round the outside of Stowe on the final lap. He's going to head towards the checkered flag, and he's going to take the pro class win.
They're too wide for the open class lead. Greg Mack gets door banged by Orlando Herald as they go through Abbey on the exit. Orlando managed to make his way back around, and Mack's getting shuffled backwards. He's got Jose Gonzalez up the inside. Now he's clear, and he's diving it back up the inside. Doesn't quite get there on Orlando Herald, and Orlando Herald is holding this as they come into the final few corners.
Doesn't want to get checked up behind Jabelski, so he's going to try to take some different moves. And Gonzalez, you're not going to get your nose down the inside there of Greg Mack as well. So Coimbra and Otis Adams did finish second and third. For the open class, Orlando Herald is going to come through the late pass on Greg Mack to take the victory, and the podium, they're all right there in the open class. Herald, Mack, Gonzalez.
Tom Ayton crosses the line behind him. Michael Chase going to cross the line after a disappointing wreck or a disappointing accident costs him a motor and a good finish. Charles Viccaro's coming around the corner. I believe one of our final open class drivers. Not quite the final one though, because that honor goes to Matthew White, who'll be rounding the last few turns here coming through Luffield in that nicely liveried 0124 car. Looks like the kind of job I would do with a route can, you know.
Yeah, after you had your stencil and a last lap pass for the open class win. Would you call that some Orlando magic?
That was good stuff. And Orlando, I gotta say, he's a favorite up in the booth here with his always running long and all the racing he does with us in the Champ Car world and in the Spec-5 world. That's a well-earned victory from him. Good to see. And we got the results.
Sure do. Ronnie Coates, Eugenio Pellicci, Michael Chase, Rui Coimbra, Otis Adams, Ray Lombardi. Nope, that is not the results. That's qualifying.
Yeah, that's not right at all. Our results are Ronnie Coates first, Rui Coimbra second, Otis Adams third, Eugenio Pellicci fourth, Zach Burke fifth, Jordy Fike sixth, Ray Lombardi seventh, Brian Shabelsky eighth, and that's our pro class drivers. Orlando Harrell is the first of the open class drivers taking the win. Greg Mack second, Jose Gonzalez third, Tom Athon back in the pro class is 12th, Michael Chase 13th, Charles Vaccaro fourth in open class, Matthew White fifth in open class, Zeus Dalston sixth, and a number of laps down, and Simon Foweather as well. And Camden Hibbett and Andrew Gilliland don't take the flag, and we have our finishing positions. And a beautiful airstrip by the looks of things.
Yeah, actually, over to the right-hand side of picture is where Jordan Force India, Racing Point, Aston Martin's base is. Part of that car park over there, literally just across the way.
Well, it may have been a replay, but it was a good one, and it was a good race. And well, I gotta say, I'm looking forward to the next one.
I'm trying to see if I can get a hold of Ronnie Coates and Orlando Harrell.
Oh yeah, well, let's see how that pans out. I was going to say schedule-wise.
Ronnie Coates is online. Orlando Harrell, it says he's not, but very, very smart people would turn their Discord status to always showing them offline, whether they were or were not. In the meantime, though, I reckon we can probably get Greg Mack.
Yeah, sure thing. We've got our second place finisher, Greg Mack here. Greg, after a pretty solid race in that beautiful green car, Orlando Harrell gets by you on the final lap.
Yeah. Good for him. Bad for me. We went through that one final complex of corners at sort of chicane area. And Brian had a little bit of a moment, and kind of I had to check up there, and then Orlando got a little bit of a run, and tried to hold him off. We tried to go side by side through a couple corners there, but then we had a little bit of a net code, and I got bounced to the side, but overall it was a good race.
It looked like a good one, and the margins are fine at Silverstone. It's always a tough place to pass, and always a tough place to hold off someone who's got a run on you.
Yeah, it's kind of it's not processional, but it's close to that. If you get a little bit of a gap between one or two people, and it seems to hold steady there. It's hard to catch people. It's hard to get away from them. Yeah.
Well, aside from that, it looked like a pretty solid race. And as I'm just starting to scan through the points here, it looks like it's a decent start to the season for you. You missed the first two rounds, but a couple good finishes after that.
Yeah, not bad. I think I'm probably not going to make the whole season. Definitely, I'm not doing the Nürburgring. I don't even own it. So I'd have to buy it and learn it. And I think it's a little past my talent level to learn that place. But
I think you do just fine. You're missing out on a joyous experience, it must be said.
Yeah, that's what everybody says. And maybe I'll get talked into it someday. I don't know. And then the last one with the hour and a half race just doesn't really fit my time schedule. So I may miss those two. So we'll see what we can do for the whatever there, maybe a half dozen races remaining in between there.
Well, thanks for coming out. It was a good race you put on today, and a pretty decent result, even though it wasn't the step on the podium I guess you're hoping for.
Yeah, I really wasn't. I mean, second's fine. I'm happy when I just have a fun race. So I've been around too long to worry about where I finish.
Well, cheers.
I think I'm kind of the grandpa of the league at this point.
I was going to say founder, but you know.
Well, that maybe that's better than grandpa, but old man fighting with the young kids.
Hey, got to keep them in line once in a while.
There you go.
Good stuff.
There you go. All right. Good.
Boy, I think I cut him off.
Oh no. Well, the good thing is though that they won't have to wait too long to maybe chat with us again, because they head to New Hampshire on the road course for the next round at Spec-5 World Tour, which is this week, which is Thursday night. And so we're bringing that one live, right, Devon?
Oh yeah, that's the plan.
Oh yeah. So you won't have to wait too long to see more Spec-5 World Tour action here on HJBC. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like our Pro or Open class winners are able to make this rescheduled date to chat with us about a race that happened at the end of last week, which is a shame, but of course our congratulations go to Ronnie Coates. Great win with a good move on the final lap there around the outside of Stowe, and of course congratulations to Orlando Herald. That might be his first open class victory. Certainly he also had to fight for it on the final lap, and we'll see how they go in a week's time. I've been David Haynes with Devon Peters, Michael Derby, producing from the replay, but producing live later this week. Do make sure to follow us if you want to keep up with all of the iRacing action, and we'll see you for the next round of Spec-5 World Tour in just a couple of days, Thursday night, same time here on HJBC.